Hello folks, how is it going? Hopefully you're doing well. First of all, take a look at the screen and say their names with reverent pride. These are the patrons who have been with me for the longest time, and they've been helping the channel for a long time, further than that even, exchanging emails and messages and stuff. So if your name is on this list, you are a valued, highly valued member of the brain trust of the community. You back the channel, and I thank you for it. I will be doing more of these as the weeks go on. But hey, if you see your name on here, especially Dan Jones and the mighty Vibratech, you guys have been here for a long time supporting the channel. Thank you so much for everything that you do and allowing me to keep the lights on and keep doing what I'm doing. It's awesome. Speaking of which, speaking of awesome, Hobby Nightmares time. Let's jump in, shall we? With our first Hobby Nightmare of the day, and it is from John. How's it going, dude? He says, "Hello North. John is writing to you again. Not the John who is with Sarah, but the John whose real name you can't pronounce." I'm going to call you Jerome. Jerome? If your name is Jerome, then you owe me like a beer or several beers. You can give it another try before you read a few short stories if you like. Yeah, just did so. And if I got it right, you owe me a beer. It's nice to hear the whole story of John and Sarah. I wish them good times together and hope they bring a healthy baby into the world. Another new generation of wargamers. Indeed, yes. It's really weird how we saw that happen in real time. On Hobby Nightmares. Cool, though. My daughter is currently on a Warhammer break. The weather is warm and she prefers to play outside, as she should. We haven't gotten the mini of the month or played on any of the new gaming tables for a few weeks. Not really a big deal. I use that table for other things too. Gravitrax, for example. Also, our local D&D dungeon master wants to learn Age of Sigmar sometime in the future. He has a Tzeentch Spearhead. I looked at the contents of the Spearhead boxes of the armies I already own. The Iron Jaws came closest. I only had to buy 3 models, of course not from Games Workshop, somewhere with a deep discount, and paint 4 of them. I'll add a picture of some of the Iron Jaws ready to beat some Tzeentch. Anyway, on to the stories. Alright, let's have a look at your model first. Models first, on the table, please. Let's see. Oh, these are pretty cool. There's something joyous about orcs. It's absolutely joyous. And I was saying to the guys on Black Lodge Games yesterday. Ooh, these are lovely. Thin your paints, though. Thin your paints. Make sure you thin those paints. But these look cool, man. I love them. Alright. Story number 1. Prepare the new generation well. Let's start with a battle against a new player that I had just last week. He is around 14 or 15 years old. To prevent us from coming with the same armies, I asked what he came in with. That was a knight and some space marines. I said that I came with Imperial Guard. I'd been to the club earlier and had already set up my army when he arrived. He was surprised. He thought that I came with orcs, just like the last time we played. Then I found out that the new generation does not really know my army as Imperial Guard, but as Astra Militarum. Let's call it a generational gap. It is. It is. Guys in the comments, do you use Imperial Guard or Astra Militarum? I always say just Guard. Imperial Guard, that's what they are, right? I love the Clint Eastwood meme of, Astra Miller, what? You're in the Guard, son. That kind of thing. That's my feeling on it anyway. Before the battle, I gave a few tips to him on how my army worked in various terms of orders, special rules, and which targets were important for him to take out first. These were of course my tanks, and especially my tank commander, who, thanks to orders, made the other tanks shoot better. I had my first turn and almost shot his knight down. It wasn't until his first turn that his knight was shot completely dead. That was because a tank commander can shoot in your turn if you kill him. I wanted to show him the rule. He said he didn't have to. He believed me. Then my next tip, and I quote, "Well, I'm glad you trust me on my word. You can do that, but there are players out there who cheat. If something seems too good to be true, like this tank commander rule, you don't have to be ashamed to ask to read the rules yourself," unquote. That is true. That is true, and that's going to save this kid a lot of heartache down the road if he takes that to heart. If he takes it to, seriously. Don't ever be ashamed to ask for a rule clarification or to see someone's rules, right? But there are ways to go about asking. I had that question given to me several times in several different ways. Sometimes it's, "Hey man, that's really cool. Can I see that rule? I didn't even know that was a thing." That's completely fine. I'm like, yeah, dude, here you go, no problem. You know? But if you ask, like, what? No, let me see that rule in your book, right? If you say that to me, I'm going to think you're a bit of a tool, right? I don't think I'm the only one. Especially if the rule is actually, you know, real, because it will be if you're playing me, right? It will be an actual thing. And it's a very accusatory tone that you don't need to use. That gets people's backs up, and I've seen it happen time and time again in games of 40k, when somebody will, you know, ask to see a rule in a bit of a shitty way, and that other person doesn't want to do it. During the battle, he also talked about his 3D printing plans, and that he was saving up for that. He's only a teenager, and of course, has to be careful with his money. Then came the last tip of the day. 3D printing is much more than just buying a printer. Washing, UV light, etc. He thanked me on that, and said he had to do some more proper research, but he ended the day on a high. Dude, that's really cool. That's really cool. And here's the thing. Prepping the new generation is extremely important in this hobby. It's expensive. And if you want, it may not seem like you're doing much when you're pulling people through the game and you're having fun with them and you're giving them bits of advice here and there. It may not seem like you're doing much, but you're paving the way to have more opponents years down the line. Okay? There are always people leaving this hobby. Always. In their droves. They're driven away mainly by Games Workshop. Games Workshop they're fighting a war with us to get people out of the hobby. I don't know why. I don't know why. But in terms of the way that they write their stories, the way that they write their rules and their games, the prices of their models, the business plans and the business of their stores, you know, how they're run, it's like they don't want us. They don't want hobbyists. So it's our job to step in and make sure that new people are starting. They are having fun. Story number 2. Not sliding on ice. Okay. When you told a karting nightmare earlier, a story came up in my head. A karting story that happened during my holiday in Finland. This time, not a nightmare, but an interesting story that a fellow racing fan would like to read. I went on a fully catered trip to Finnish Lapland with several colleagues. We all earned by having sold enough products or excellent commitment to work. There were many fun activities, such as a snowmobile ride, dog sled ride, seeing the northern lights, etc., and karting on the last day. It was, of course, ice karting. Many colleagues were looking forward to it, nice racing and drifting on the slippery ice. There were so many of us that we got practice laps and then about 4 heats. The best 2 of each heat then went on to the final race. During the practice laps, I quickly discovered that drifting and sliding is cool, but not faster than braking on time and accelerating carefully. This also keeps your kart more stable and you are less likely to make mistakes. I also shared these tips with my colleagues, especially after the first heat, which I won with comparative ease. I would rather finish 3rd in the final heat than with a 0.5 second behind the second place than win with a 30-second lead. There was also a beautiful young Finnish woman who provided us with hot drinks and a beautiful smile. Both gave me a warm feeling inside. Dude, Scandinavian girls, yeah, it's kind of silly. I met several at university, ladies from that part of the world. Not one ugly girl amongst them. Like, all hot. All hot and unaware of how hot they are. Like, they were just, when I finally spoke to one, her name was Nanny. Bit of a weird name, but anyway, when I finally spoke to her, we were having a little talk, and I was like, yeah, I complimented her on like how good looking she was, and I was like, dude, like, you're not aware of that? She goes, no. And she said, well, I guess it's because where I come from, everybody's like this. And I was like, oh, so what you're saying, people in England are kind of ugly? She went, yeah. Like, straight away, no backward glance. She went, not you. I was like, no, I know. Like, we're having a drink, I know. But like, yeah, but you're saying most people over here are ugly. She went, yeah, pretty much. I was like, oh, okay, cheers. I don't know why that is. There's certain parts of the world are just better genetically, I guess, than others. Dude, Israeli women, what's going on there? Are you serious? You know when you look at like Natalie Portman and Gal Gadot and you're thinking, yeah, they must be like the best looking women in Israel. They're not. They're not. I don't know what's in the water. I don't know what that is, right? Czech women from Czechia, right? Don't know what that is. Don't know what's in the water. It's in, you know, what's going on. I don't know about dudes because I'm straight, but you know, women. Are there any parts of the world where men are naturally good looking? Any nations where you like, I've not seen an ugly, you know, version of that man before, like, you know, that kind of thing? Because for women, it is absolutely a thing. Like, there are certain countries where, you know, you can take a look at somebody at a glance and kind of know where they're from, you know? Let me know. Anyway. I could also chat with her until it was time for the final heat. Very nice. I learned a lot about life from above the Arctic Circle. It was time for the final though. The first two of Heat 4 were of course at the front of the grid. The rest ran to the karts to get the best possible starting position. I just went there at my leisure. I didn't mind starting it more at the back. Coincidentally, I had starting number 1 on my kart. In Formula 1, that is the number of the reigning champion. Am I going to do this number justice? When lining up on the grid, I did a trick that my old idol Schumacher often did, standing a little bit at an angle so you can easily get between the other karts during a faster start. Unfortunately, my intention was seen by the starter and he put my kart straight. Haha. Despite that, I had a good start and was already 5th during the first corner. Unfortunately, somebody spun in front of me. I had to slow down and take a bad line for the next corner because of that. I was 7th. I slowly overtook several colleagues and halfway through the race, I was in 3rd with number 2 and a few seconds in front of me and number 1 a few seconds further away. I was not much faster than them and I was thinking I could come 2nd if I made a good attack in the coming laps. However, because my colleagues did not accept my tips, brake on time and accelerating carefully, they were sliding and drifting quite a lot. Then a mistake happened to the leader. He took the corner very wide when drifting too much, which caused number 2 to sit on his bumper. Let those two fight, then I'll get closer, I was thinking, and with that thought, I kept my distance. A few laps before the end, it happened. They had already been busy with each other for 3 corners in a row, which allowed me to launch a surprise attack on the 2 of them. I caught the other one lap later on the straight. He came out of the last corner drifting too much, which allowed me to have more speed by going on the gas slowly and then flooring it. Once I crossed the line, it was my time to drift and do donuts. Well outside of the racing line, of course, in my lap back to the pits. The driver who came 2nd did the same until we were all signalled to stop doing bloody donuts. Cheers. That sounds fun, man. That sounds fun. Like, that sounds like a holiday I'd want to go on. In cold countries, there's something kind of underrated about going to them as like a proper holiday destination. Especially now it's so hot in the UK right now. It's ridiculous. Dude, it was 35 degrees yesterday. What is that? What is that? Anyway. Next up on the docket, we have Andy. How's it going, Andy? And he says, "Hi, North. This may be my longest entry to date, so apologies if it goes on a bit, but I feel it's worth airing out, and I'd love your take on this, as sometimes I feel like I may be a bit of a nightmare in parts." Ooh, one of those. Okay. Best to start from the beginning. When I was studying at university, I joined a few societies, mainly drama, where we put on shows throughout the year, and another one was Nerf. At this point around 2012, Nerf was just coming into a type of renaissance. Running around with pump-action foam rifles just hit that nostalgia feeling of a really good stick and pretending it was a gun. It was a good way to keep active as well, and the camaraderie was something I'd later emulate in my own endeavours. Alright, I've got a story about Nerf guns and university. And women. So, we were standing at university, like me and Steady, who was on the channel quite a lot, we were standing in the circular car park of our college, right? Really nice place, really lovely sunny day, and we're talking to these two ladies, and obviously you were trying to score some dates, right? But things are going well, we're having a little chat, we've swapped numbers and all going well. Anyway, Matt, who is another friend of the channel, who most of you have met at Exilefest, was walking around, and Matt had joined something called the Assassins Society. Basically, they try to kill each other, quote unquote, by doing things like, putting poison in each other's drinks and things like that. And obviously, they're not really doing that. They're basically putting like a slip of paper underneath the bottom of the glass, so when you drank it, it said this is poisoned, right? So you've been killed by this person, and they just did that. It was cool, right? I wasn't involved in it because it's a bit weird, but whatever. Anyway, we're talking to these two girls, and Matt is walking nearby, and he sees somebody else from the Assassin Society on the other side of the car park who hasn't seen him yet, and his face just drops. He's like, ugh. He looks at his phone. He turns to me and says, "That guy's on my list." The girls look at him pretty quizzically, like, what? He goes, "I'll be right back." He runs inside. We're talking to the girls. I'm forgetting that he was even there because obviously I'm busy. He comes running back out with a Nerf gun that can only be described as a Gatling cannon. He walks out and shouts across the yard, "Come here, boy!" And these two girls just look at him like, "Is that your friend?" And I'm like, "Nope, never seen him before in my life. Don't know who this guy is." They're like, "Come here, boy!" And the other guy just goes running off, and I was like, "Matt, you are the worst assassin ever." It's like announcing your presence to your target. And he was like, "Well, it's not sport otherwise." And he went running off with this Nerf gun. So yeah, anyway, that's my experience of Nerf guns. I'm kind of scarred by that, but anyway. Moving on. At this point around 2012, Nerf was just coming into a type of renaissance. Yeah. It's a good way to keep active as well, and camaraderie was something I'd later emulate in my own endeavours. It was when I later graduated and got into the Comic-Con scene, there's a whole entry to write about how toxic that hobby was, when I was able to form my own Nerf army. We all had matching gear that made us look like something out of the Expendables, with me at the helm as a sort of commander. We'd lost Nerf wars at these events, and also... we'd host Nerf wars at these events, and also do kids' parties on the side to help fund the group and cover expenses like public liability insurance, and kept us fed and watered, etc. At this time, things were at an all-time high. I managed to create a community and brought friends together that wouldn't have otherwise have met. Looking back, I think I may have lent a bit too much into our group's deep lore. What? I ended up keeping a journal of everything we did, and I'd set up group chats. Oh my god, so many group chats. A main chat for all the members, one for the command chain, and even one had as a kind of a panic room for just myself and managing directors when we'd set it up as a legit business. So if you ask me, I'd say I had some kind of commander complex, but I guess back then, that group was the most important thing in my life. I like to think I've mellowed out a bit as I've gotten older, and I've got other things to keep me grounded. Do other nerds obsess like this? Let me know. Like, have any of you guys been in a role of responsibility, and you've sort of taken it a bit too far? I've had this in 40k groups before when you're putting on campaigns and things. There are dudes that I've come across who get way too invested in it, right? There was one dude that I came across in university who was doing a campaign, and he really didn't like that Chaos kept winning, because he was writing his story, quote unquote, and the Chaos dude just kept winning, and so he kept trying to invent ways for them to lose, and it just put a sour taste in everybody's mouths. It wasn't really good. Anyway, it was around this time that we dropped from the Comic-Cons and started doing our own game days. To cut a long story short, the event organiser decided we weren't worth the hassle, as we didn't do enough to promote ourselves at this one event. We were set up in Bradford Football Stadium for a Nerf War Day, and we had free reign of the car park, which we were told would be closed off and all cars taken out the night before. Bradford Football Stadium. Is that Valley Parade? Did I get that right? I'm really good at knowing football stadiums. Is it Bradford? Is it Valley Parade? It is! Absolutely brilliant. Valley Parade. There we go. Awesome. Brilliant stuff. Where are we? In truth, there were still cars there the day we had it, and most people were parking up even in mid-game. A ceiling water pipe had burst on one side, so restricted us to the side that had the toilet block. The lift wasn't meant to be used by convention goers on that floor, but people randomly entered the playing field, so crowd control was an absolute nightmare. The guy who organised it was annoyed with us purely because we weren't outside at bang on opening time to get our flyers out to the crowd queuing up. Like nobody wanted to know us yet, because they wanted to actually gain entry to the convention hall first. We had around 10 of us in total to run this one. Our setup was we'd have 2 guys on the door to take payment and brief players and get them armed up, and the remaining team would act as the enemy for them to shoot at. The organiser wanted us to be up on the convention floor, handing out flyers, and even dragged us up on stage to promote ourselves, quote unquote. Not many people were paying attention anyway, and we couldn't spare anybody to run the convention floor. It was a case of not wanting to use up manpower where it was most needed elsewhere. If I sent people up, I'd have less people down and have a crap game when people expected more of a challenge. Our game day events proved to be just what we needed. For the convention games, we charge £5 per player for a 20 to 30 minute experience. The game days would allow us to charge around £20 to £25 for a full day of games in an area that was fit for purpose. We had access to an airsoft site that was a former RAF munitions facility during the Second World War, so it was perfect for what we wanted to achieve. We could manage to get one game a day in a month, so we had plenty of funds to keep us ticking over quite comfortably. By this stage, competitive Nerf was gaining traction. We had upgraded our loadouts and made quite the name for ourselves. Nerf is a strange hobby, North, as it has a massive following in America, but in the UK, it's mainly in Scotland and further southwards in London where all the activity is. Why Scotland? Let's take a quick sip of tea. Why Scotland? Is that because Scotland has, like, really nice rugged terrain for you to, like, run over and stuff? I don't know. We had the monopoly in the northeast, as we were the only ones that put on game days. We'd get players from up and down the country coming to join us. That's cool. Ooh. We'd peak around pre-lockdown. We attended the first Nerf convention in the UK. Shout out to Big Al and the Foam Fest team, and co-hosted Battle of Brit Nerf at our home site, which had around 60 players from as far away as Denmark. It was in New Year of 2020 that we foolishly thought that this was going to be our year and that we'd reach new heights. Lockdown hit us pretty hard, and slowly but surely our group savings got eaten up by insurance and business expenses that we still had to pay out. A year later, we sadly had to dissolve the business end of things. We were able to still do our game days, but by this stage, we had lost a lot of members. Most of them went off to do airsoft, and others just drifted and did other hobbies like Warhammer. There are times I think I push too hard to keep things going. That's the hardest part about being a creative person. So I'm also a creative person and I'm an organizer. Like, I love organizing things. This is the hardest part, knowing when the time has come to step back and say, listen, we need to, like, wind this down a bit, right? Wind it down a bit, make things all right, manage your expectations, you know, under promise and over deliver, that kind of a thing. It's really hard for organized creative people like me to do that. I stuck with it until about 2 years ago. I set up a Facebook page and Discord server to try and get a spark back for myself and to try to keep the northeast of the map for the Nerf hobby. I dipped my toe into airsoft around this time, as I figured if I can't beat them, why not join them? This Discord would prove to be the final nail in my Nerf hobby coffin. Mainly due to 2 individuals I'll rename for this story, but those in the hobby will know exactly who these 2 people are. Oh wow, okay. First up is Aaron. He has a tendency to jump in and out of other Discord servers when things don't go his way, and even go as far as to set up a burner account just to stir up the pot. He got found out as he'd slipped up when dropping a comment. Possibly he used his original account, then swiftly deleted what he'd said. I can't quite remember how it was, because it was in a larger server that I wasn't a part of. Fair enough. He'd always play the mental health card to explain why he was being a dick. I hate this. I hate this. I really do. I was speaking to a teacher over the weekend when I brought my daughter back to her mum's place, right? And she's a SEN teacher. So in the UK, a SEN teacher basically works with special needs kids, right? And I said to her what my philosophy on, mental health and kids is, and that, you don't get to use it as an excuse for bad behavior. You don't get to use it as an excuse to be a dick. And she said, exactly, I'm exactly that way as well. That is all, I do that as well. I don't let them get away with things that you wouldn't let any normal quote-unquote kid get away with. The minute you start segregating people, one, you dehumanize them, and two, you give them an excuse. As an adult, you should not be using mental health as some sort of shield to just be a prick. He says, for the record, North, I've suffered from mental health issues for years and refuse to play that card to explain away anything I do. I like to think I'd hold my hands up and just say I was being a bit of a dick. Yes, dude. Absolutely. The second person is Brad, who is pretty much Aaron's lapdog. Anything Aaron would jump on, Brad wasn't too far behind him. This would be an ongoing issue, and I assume still is to this day. Anybody who wanted to sell a blaster will be met with their response of, that thing is so old now, there's no way you can sell it that high, you need to go lower. Then they'd swoop in and grab a bargain. This would come to a head when another member would try and sell blasters. This guy, let's call him Hunter, is on the spectrum, so I do have some sympathy to what he says and what he does. He is also the type to give up and drop back in. Very sensitive about his weight and looks too, but a lot of the way he acts reminds me of myself and not in a good way. He makes me think, wow, is that how I sound to other people? Dude, been there. Been there, yeah. So, Aaron and Brad are the main instigators in bullying Hunter out of the server just because he wanted to try and sell off some blasters. I also had to worry about another couple and other people who've been kicked out of the Britain Nerf Discord for bullying and transphobic remarks. For context, that year's Foam Fest was raising funds for a charity that helped people in the trans community who would find themselves homeless, etc., and some people jumped down the organiser's neck about it. Why? I mean, I get. Okay, Andy, you're gonna think I'm a prick for saying this, right? Okay. The next trans person you speak to, I want you to ask them, how many trans people do you think there are? I'm willing to bet if that person's been trans for a long time and is legitimately trans, they will say, not a lot. There aren't many. Right? Certainly not enough to have full-on fundraisers. Do you know what I mean? There aren't that many. They are not as common as you think. They are special in a way that's actually special. Not special as in they're making fun of people way. I'm thinking no, they're actually special. These people are not common at all. And when you do things like let's have a fundraiser for homeless trans people, right? Number one, trans people are already pretty rare, right? Actual trans people. Number two, homeless trans people even rarer. So you're doing an entire event based on this one very, very, very small remit of people, right? If that's the angle of attack where people are saying, listen, dude, you shouldn't be doing this. It's, it's so disproportionate. There are other things we can be doing, like a mental health charity or something like that will still give these guys help because they're part of everybody else. That I agree with. If you're doing it just because you don't like trans people, then yeah, you're a bit of a dick, right? But Andy, seriously though, mate, next time you meet a trans person, sit down and ask them how many they think there are. And they won't get offended. If they're actual trans people, they're not going to get offended, The people I know who are mostly upset by the amount of people who identify as trans who actually aren't are trans people. I'm serious. Like they fucking hate it, dude. They fucking hate it. That's my point, right? I think a lot of people who identify as trans are actually not. They're either confused or they're using it as a tactic to garner sympathy, or they want to stand out from the crowd, or they want to be in the crowd, or whatever, right? Yeah, but they're not actually trans. Being trans is a painful experience. It's not this transcendent, joyous thing that most people who come out, quote-unquote, paint it as. It's not, right? It's struggle. If you know any real trans people, you know what I mean. It's struggle. Every day. It's hell. Right? Imagine being born in the wrong fucking body. Are you shitting me? The self-hatred that would come with that. If you're not feeling that, you're probably not trans. That's all I'm saying, right? I stick up for my friends, right? And being in Liverpool, I've got a fair few friends who are trans, right? And they don't lead. They lead as good lives as they can. Yeah, and they all say that as well. Like, literally, like, they don't use it as an excuse. They don't lead with it in conversations. You know? They're not offended if you call them the wrong name or the wrong sex or whatever. They don't care. Their life is their life. Your life is your life. And that's fine. You know, is what it is. But, like, what they have to go through isn't fun. So, to do these, like TikTok videos where you're coming out, quote-unquote, as trans, I smell a rat. I smell a rat. And every single time I see one of these events that goes, oh, we need to help all the millions of trans people out there. Dude, there aren't millions. Shut up. You're helping narcissists is what you're doing, right? You're not helping actual trans people. Actual trans people are living their lives. They're working. They're too busy. You know what I'm saying? Because they're normal people. Right? The normal people who have to put up with a lot of bullshit. That's what they are. I've got your backs, trans people. Honestly. You are some tough motherfuckers. I will say that, right? The shit you've got to put up with. Moving on. Up until this point, I didn't have to add too many rules, but as time went on, I had to add and amend more primarily due to Aaron and Brad's behaviour. Don't get it twisted, North. I did want to ban them outright. This hobby is unbelievably small compared to the likes of Airsoft and word travels like wildfire. Dude, word travels in 40k as well. For a massive hobby, in Liverpool, if you're not a nice player, word gets around. I've been warned off of several people. The word does get around. There was a comment in Nerf that claimed my entire server were bullies, which simply was not the case. Stories can be easily manipulated to fit somebody else's narrative if need be. The last rule I'd add would be to kindly refrain from promoting live private events. This deeply wounded Aaron's pride as he hosts what he calls in-tight only events and swore blind they weren't private events. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, North, but if you have to be personally invited to an event, it's a private event. Yeah. I argued this with Aaron, but then Brad soon jumped down my throat like the perfect little lapdog that he is. My argument was that this hobby is small as it is, so why make it more inclusive? Aaron could have advertised it privately to his inner circle, but because he left Facebook and nobody used Twitter, Discord was the only place he could promote. I'm sorry, but I missed the part where that's my problem. My main goal of the whole thing was to include as many people as I could and to try to save the hobby in our region, and I ended up fighting with two middle-aged men in gamer girl cat ears, who I knew I'd gotten... What? And I knew it had gotten too much. Gamer girl cat ears? What's wrong with these people? Okay. Alright, so let's talk about gatekeeping, alright? Because you just used gatekeeping by saying the hobby's so small, we need to be more inclusive. I don't think any hobby should be inclusive. I know. Hot take. I know. But I don't. I don't think any hobby should be inclusive. I think you should gatekeep every single hobby you do. Okay? But, and I write this in every single rule piece I write all the time, there is a thing called positive gatekeeping. What it is you understand what the hobby is and what it isn't, that you're gatekeeping. If somebody comes in and they say, hey, dude, what's this 40k thing? And you describe 40k to them. Grimdark, 3rd edition style 40k, right? In terms of the lore. And they go, that sounds fucking awesome. Sign me up, dude. You then say, dude, you are more than welcome. Like, what armor are you going to collect? Dude, I'll help you, right? Let's do this. I'll play your first game with you, no problem, right? That's positive gatekeeping. You've opened the gate for somebody who wants to come in, and you've given them their start in the hobby. That's positive gatekeeping. But positive gatekeeping is also if somebody comes into the hobby and you describe 40k to them and they go, there's not enough trans people. There's not enough women. There's too much blood and guts. It's a bit too hard-edged to me. Can we change that? You say no. I wish you well in finding something that you'll actually like. But no, that's not what this is. So, you know, like, I wish you all the best in finding something that you enjoy. But that's not what this is, right? This is not that, what you're describing. And it never will be that. Okay, oh, and maybe you've got some recommendations. Yeah, there's this other game that you might like called French Crusade or whatever. Go play that, and you know that has all that stuff in it, right? Now, don't get your knickers in a twist, French Crusade fans. I'm just taking the piss, right? That's also positive gatekeeping. Okay, so you're holding the gate open for people who want to come in and want to add to the hobby, want to partake in the hobby, and you're closing it to people who maybe either won't enjoy it or will actively try and taint it and change it, right? Because you're gatekeeping their good time too. If you don't think someone's going to have a good time in 40k, you say, dude, I don't think this is for you. Maybe sit this one out, right? You're saving them from a really bad time. That's positive gatekeeping. Negative gatekeeping is saying, you're a woman, you shouldn't be in 40k, or you're gay, you shouldn't be in 40k. You don't get an opinion, right? That is a load of bullshit. That's negative gatekeeping. There's a difference. But all hobbies should be gatekept. Without distinction, without, you know, exception. All hobbies should be gatekept. Anyway. For me, it was the last straw, and all energy I had to continue died with that final argument. I handed over the keys to a trusted few, then bowed out for good. By this time, I was one of 3 surviving members of our original group, having once boasted over 20 in our heyday. In truth, I really hope those 2 are listening to this, and it could have been pretty petty and outed them by name, but they know who they are. I'll be honest with you, North, I've reached a point in my life where I'm done hiding what I really think when it comes to certain people. 2022 was a shocker of a year for me. My dad passed away of a sudden brain tumour. I lost my grandma to dementia. Our little girl was born 3 months premature, and I lost a friend to heart failure all in 1 year. So nothing shocks me anymore, and I've seen it all. Life is too short, so I rid myself of toxic people as best as I can. Dude, there's absolutely nothing wrong with pruning the old friendship tree. There's nothing wrong with that. Congratulations to you, Andy. You're being a man, and you're the rock in your wife's life. You're like the dude. You're holding it together. You're doing some man shit right now. This is the thing where I'm going to do a video on this eventually about stoicism and modern stoicism. And modern stoicism, for the most part, is a load of bullshit. Read the Stoics, read the old Stoics, read meditations, do things like that. Read books on the meditations too. Ryan Holiday is really good. I think he did a book called The Obstacle is the Way, which is really good. Really highly recommend it. But Stoicism today, modern Stoicism, like the modern Stoics, actual philosophers, they practice nihilism, like not engaging with the world because it's not worth engaging with. You don't get emotional about things because it's really not worth it. You have to be aloof and above everything. No, dude, you're weak is what you are. You're weak. Opening yourself up to the world and letting it happen, that's stoicism. Right? Let the world happen. But the Stoics absolutely say, get passionate about things that are worth getting passionate about. If you see something you don't like, or you need to protect your family, or you need to be a man, do some man shit. That's what the Stoics is. It's doing man shit. Nihilism is fucking cowardice. It is. And all you dudes out there who give up and say, oh, I'm gonna black pill or red pill or whatever, I'm not gonna chase women anymore, I'm not gonna try for that job, I'm just gonna give up and sit in this basement, I'm gonna give up and not do anything to change my life, because what's the point in anything? Dude, you're a fucking coward. I'm saying it right now, right to your face, you're a coward. That's what you are. That's cowardly. That's knavish. That's not man shit. Okay? Man shit is knowing you have problems, knowing you have issues, but looking to the people around you and going, I'm not letting these people down. I'm the leader here. I'm the man in this situation, and I'm going to take the bull by the horns, and I'm going to sort this shit out, right? It doesn't mean you have to be on all the time. It doesn't mean you have to bang your head against the wall constantly and suffer in life. That's not what it means, right? It means balance in all things. Keep your emotions balanced, yes, but when it's time to be passionate about something, open your heart up and say, listen, no further, motherfucker, no further. That's being a man. That's being stoic. When you read the ancient Stoics, that's what they were talking about. Dude, Marcus Aurelius writes all the time that he can't be arsed getting out of bed. He's the king of the world, man. He's the emperor of Rome. He owns the world that they knew of at that stage. Do you know what I mean? And he's like, I can't be bothered with this today, right? But he does. He gets up and he gets on with it, right? He's told discipline. You know? Discipline in all things. It's a very Greek notion. Even the Stoics are even written in Greek. He's a Roman who speaks Latin, but it's written in Greek, right? It's a very Greek notion. Moderation in all things. But that doesn't mean you can't be passionate about things. It doesn't mean you can't be people like Andy who stand up to people and say, no. I'm cutting these people out because I only have so much mental bandwidth. And that's an incredibly brave thing to think, to realize as a man. You only have so much energy and mental bandwidth. And so, as a man, you need to adjudicate and select where you're going to spend your mental bandwidth, what you're going to put energy into. You can't spread yourself too thin. As Bilbo Baggins says, you'd be like butter scraped over too much bread. You've got to decide where you're going to invest your energy. And some people aren't fucking worth it. They're not. Alright? They're not worth it. And you'd be better off without them. I always say, keep your friends, do all this, do all that. Yeah, I know I always say that, but sometimes you need to prune the old friendship bush. Bush, you know what I'm saying, right? Sometimes you got to do it. What Andy's doing here, his dad's passed away. He's lost his grandmother. He's probably looking after her as well. His little girl's born 3 months premature. He's lost his friend to heart failure. He's realised what's important. And he said, look, do you know what? All the rest is noise. Everything else is noise. Right? He poured his passion and his energy and his emotion into those who are most important. In other words, he was fucking stoic. Right? Please stop sending me quotes from these faux philosophers who are modern day philosophers who think that they're stoics. They're not. They're nihilistic and they're cowardly. They're cowards. Goes for the manosphere as well. Most manosphere is nihilistic. It's give up, don't bother. Why should you bother? Like you got a chip on your shoulder? Fucking grow up. Grow up. Touch grass. Go outside. Touch a breast. Go outside. Right? See, I'm serious. I'm serious. Take a shower. Buy size appropriate clothes for your body. Start lifting weights, put some cologne on, eat well, drink well, and go out with your friends. If you don't have any friends, reach out to people who might be friends. Put yourself out there, be brave. Do some man shit, and your life will get better. It might take 6 days, it might take 6 hours, it might take 6 months. But it will get better. Persevere, brothers, persevere. Keep going. Anyway, he says, I'm happy to report that my little girl is turning 3 this year and is running around like a kid should. I hung up the Nerf and lent fully into Airsoft, where I don't feel bad about missing a game, as I can easily dip in and out with 6 different sites, all within an hour's drive, at most, with game days guaranteed every weekend. You'll probably find that I've collected a number of nightmares from various hobbies, so I'll clue you in on them as time goes on. Keep doing what you're doing, dude. Andy, well done to you, sir. Well done to you for being a good dad and for realising what's important and for putting those things first, right? Absolutely. I love you a long time. I'll be speaking to you tomorrow when we're going to be doing another 40k rantage about your hot takes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. There are quite a few to get through, so we'll do those tomorrow. I love you a long time. I'll speak to you soon. Have a good one. Bye now.